speak a little bit about what these companies do. Obviously, the Architectural Preservation Studio is one of perhaps several dozen companies that do this type of work in the New York area. And the purpose of this report is really twofold. Number one, to establish the existing conditions, and number two, it qualifies the building for a whole host of funding sources that are going to be relying on this report to make the decision on whether or not this building is worth maintaining or restoring. So a lot of what is in this report is about establishing what's there and also providing enough historic background to agencies that would be interested in funding future work. There's a lot of, I'm going to call it fluff in this report. And that's basically, it's an issue of the uh, the personnel that the company has on staff. Some of these architectural companies are very heavy on structural and architectural. Others are a little heavy on the archaeological aspects. Others are very heavy on testing and the archaeology aspects of the time of the materials, things like that. So this company seems to have a little bit of everything. So it's going to be a little bit light on maybe the family history. There are some issues with what they've done there. I also have some problems with their identification of the outbuildings, but I'm sympathetic toward this problem. The documentation is actually pretty poor. And that's about it. And I would probably want to start somewhere around, I don't know. I mean, I'm just flipping through. They talk about the Netherlands and the development of New York early on. I don't think we need to go too much into that. If you see, they mention Baird frequently in their documentation. Baird was a resident of Rye. He was a minister, and he wrote a very concise and detailed, I'm going to say, meant to be sort of a documentary on Rye and Portchester area. The problem is it's about the only detailed document from that time. And I don't think Reverend Baird ever really intended it for it to be a historic reference. He's really doing it more from a kind of a story and neighborhood kind of thing. And, this guy lived over here and this guy lived there. And unfortunately, like I say, it has become a historical reference. And there are a lot of problems with that document in that regard. But unfortunately, it's about all we've got. So we have to take a lot of, even what's in this report, we have to take it with a grain of salt. So I'm not going to beat them up on the details because, like I said, I'm sort of sympathetic to the problem. It might be
well, sorry, just to your point, Norm, though, one of the things that I did want to bring up with Eric Zamft was just that, if there were things that we wanted to issue like as an addendum or as an annotation, I was going to ask him if we could do that, because I agree with you, Baird is not put in context at all. It's just sort of stated like, well, he said it, so therefore it must be true, which is deeply problematic. And then obviously one of the things I wanted to ask you about was this person Glassy, whom I have no idea who that person is or why the discussion is there. So.
Given a lot of credence, but no, I have not read any of Mr. Grassi's work, and I don't know that it's even relevant in this case. I think they were using it as sort of a general background information on how things are done, but like I say, there's a little bit of fluff in the document, and that just may be because that's what this particular company is heavy on.
Yes, I felt there was duplication in the archaeological report. It seemed to duplicate what had already been stated by APS.
Yeah, there is.
And I wondered, why did we need to pay this person?
Yeah, I have seen historic structure reports that were 30 pages long, and some of them are 300 pages long. for similar sized buildings. Yeah, we had one done for the Lyon House that was about 35 pages. But again, it depends on what they're focusing on, and you know, we can sort of pick through it. I want to ask, is there any glaring issues that anyone has before we get into a kind of general overview of this thing?
I don't know what you mean by glaring.
Like
I have,
what the
yeah,
heck are they talking about?
yeah, I have an issue. I mean, it's kind of a small point in the scope of the project here, but it bothered me that the Andrew Bush's site plan, which dates approximately from the 1850s. We don't have an actual date, but you can kind of date it from when he was born and when he was at Rye Academy, which was when he drew this site plan. So that got folded into 1933 sets of plans. And I was bothered that although they used him throughout the project to reference certain features of the site, but they folded him into the 1933 plans, and that bothered me because I think his site plan Andrew L. Bush's site plan is charming. It's like a piece of folk art, and it's referenced in the nominating documents as a significant piece in our collection. And I just think it should be given its due, and it should be called the site plan drawn by Andrew L. Bush, probably from the mid 1800s.
Yeah, I agree. It should have had it dated out because there are a number of maps from that era done by professional map making companies that
Mm-hmm.
disagree with Andrew's sketch.
Uh-huh.
So without having a firm date of Andrew's sketch, it makes it a little bit of a challenge to figure out what the heck is going on there. We're going to talk about some of the problems with Andrew's sketch and also with the maps that were done around that time. So
Mm-hmm.
there are some interesting problems.
Okay.
I
Are they planning to provide better versions of the floor plans where you can actually read all the numbers and
Probably not. I know that somewhere
I think we
in
should
their
require,
documentation. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think we should require them to do that because these are really you can't use them, and if that in order to interpret the rest of the report, you need to look at the floor plans, and if you can't see numbers and you don't know which room is which, how helpful is
Mm-hmm.
I agree, and I can certainly make that a request from Eric Samp just to say like that they need to hand over at least one copy of each of these things in a bigger format that we can
Yes,
read. Yes.
bigger, definitely.
okay.
You can't expand these because the numbers blur.
Right.
So
Not good.
we need a bigger set that you can actually read the numbers. Yeah.
Maybe we're having a technology issue with that because I have no problem blowing them up. If you want, I can share the screen at some point. We can look at the plans in detail.
Well, I think we want to keep in mind that anything that we do tonight, we want it to be able to carry forward. So if Helen and I are having trouble reading a document and they're going to provide it in this digital format, then somebody in the future is going to have a problem doing that too.
Yeah.
So, and if this is going to be the report of record, that's what I find, so challenging about it is that, like, for example, I don't understand this discussion of chimney 2 at all. And, it's like, well, if I don't understand it and they can just hand this in and walk away, then, what happens in the
Right.
future?
Now would probably be a good time to share the floor plan on the screen. I have it up on my screen. Let's see. Is that appearing?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so what they have done here is very common. This is not so much a floor plan as a schematic. In other words, it's a drawing. It's probably not all that accurate in terms of scale. Somewhere in their documents, I'm sure they measured the building. So they do have dimensions on things, and I think that is something that would be included in the final report. It's very important for future reference and future research to have those dimensions accurately done. And as I say, they would not have been able to produce this sketch without having first done some field measurements. But typically what they're going to do is they're going to identify every single space. So even the space that might appear to be, pointless or useless or buried, it's going to get a number just for ease of talking about it.
Sorry, just for 1 second, Norm, did you say that you did not find the dimensions in here, or you did find the dimensions in
I
here?
did not find the dimensions.
Okay, thank you. I'm just collecting stuff for Eric Samt. Thank you.
Got it. On the existing conditions drawings, let me just pull them up. We can look at those as well. Let me just flip through really quick. Okay, we're going to go back and look at those as well. The existing condition drawings are black and white, and they are a little more structural, but there is not much more information on them. In fact, let me do this. I'm going to slide this one over here. And I'm going to pull up. Sorry, you're gonna have to watch me looking for things. Um, This one, okay. So basically what they have done is they've just given us some rough dimensions for these spaces. We start at the front. Well, that's why I say they're relatively clear. If you were to try to print these out on 8.5 by 11, you wouldn't be able to read them.
Yes, well, I discovered that.
Yeah, you would really need to print this out on like 18 by 24, maybe even larger than that. But that's why in a PDF format, it's really not too bad to you can zoom in and out. So the problem with the two drawings, one the schematic that we looked at over here. Let me see if I can do this. Sorry, we got a lot of different things going on. No, we'll just leave this one. Sorry, I'm sliding things around. So what they've just given us is some basic interior dimensions. This would not be helpful to anybody who's trying to restore the building. But your best bet probably is to just work with the PDF. So as I say, they don't label a lot of things in this. This is chimney 1, has nothing on it. This one says chimney 2, but it would have been nice to have a more detailed description of what these things are right on the same page. There's a lot of back and forth that you need to do.
Norm, can I ask you a question? So these are all the interior dimensions?
Our interior dimensions.
But I noticed that they don't include the window apertures or the doors at all.
No. But you see how detailed this drawing is. They have clearly measured this stuff already. To put all of those dimensions on this plan would probably be very, very confusing. But that's one of the things that I have written down is are they going to produce a full-size architectural set of plans on like 24 by 36 sheets that would be, available at Portchester or available at the Lyon House for somebody to look at? Because obviously, no one's going to be able to grab that off of their system, especially if it's a proprietary drawing, which I suspect it is. But they should make that available at least in a print form.
Right. So, because we, especially for doorways, if we're ever going to have a discussion of, renovating so it becomes ADA compliant, we need to know what all of the doorway dimensions are.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right.
Right.
And they didn't really address ADA at all, very peripherally. So as long as we have this up, does anybody have any questions? Do we all know what we're looking at here?
I have a question about chimney 2.
Sure, let's slide over to chimney 2.
Okay. So what they wrote was that they never went into room 114,
Yes.
which I'm not happy about that. But then it says that, chimney 2 and room 114, they assumed that they were constructed simultaneously, as typical masonry construction would require some sort of through stone to tie the two walls together. What does that mean?
Right. So what they're saying is that they didn't see evidence of through stones. So what they're assuming is that room 114 was built at the same time as the chimney. I would not go quite that far, because when I took photos of the building and when I look at the construction of those two pieces, they do not look like similar construction to me.
But is that something you can tell from the outside anyway?
Yes,
If you
can.
never went into the room?
Yeah, you can see some of the stonework on 114 from the outside, and it does not match the stonework on the interior of the building. That doesn't mean it was done at a different time, but it's...
So what is through stone?
All right, so through stone is when you are building two masonry structures next to each other, you want to connect them. So they actually dismantle part of the old work and they put some stones in that will tie the two pieces together. That's kind of important because the new work and the old work will settle at different times. And if you don't have through stone, eventually they'll separate and allow water to get between them. And that's recipe for a disaster. So you want to tie the two separate constructions together with through stones. But as I say, I don't know that there is any, but the only way for them to know that for sure would be to get into room 114. They need to get in there.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, that was definitely one of my questions.
Now they were able to get into the back, into this area back here, right? 111, 112, 115.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And that's all been obviously modernized to the point where there's probably nothing of historical value left in there.
Right. This was divided up for the DPW to use as a bathroom.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's going to become an issue if I'm going to stay with this. They're going to have to find another way to do these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Because what year is that supposedly from?
that stonework out there?
Yeah.
Early 1800s.
Yeah. So we don't need that to be a bathroom.
No. Like those partitions can all come out of there. I mean, that was intended to be a cold storage room, for the house. And I think it should be restored that way.
Well, do you think it was a dairy at one time for storing? I don't know.
There's only a little bit of evidence, really, as to how the entire farm area under Bush was actually functioning. And because that stone structure dates kind of to the time when Bush was in residence, I have a little bit of trouble seeing it as anything other than cold storage.
Hmm. Okay.
Now, it wasn't really a working farm when Bush was there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my mom grew up on a farm, and I don't think you'd put a cow there. I just don't think you would.
No,
No, I meant just for storing milk or cheese.
yeah, well, yeah, but I mean that would have come possibly from a different farm, or maybe from the Lyon farm.
Hmm.
That would be stored there. There's a lot of conjecture, I guess, as to how it might have been used, but
Hmm.
the only reason that it would have big, thick walls like that is for cold storage.
Hmm. Yeah. So there are a couple of trifold pamphlets in the house. And at one time or another, I guess they were put out on display. People could take one. So they show openings between rooms that are not there any longer. So one of the openings is where the little sink is now in that fiber arts room. Room 104. Yeah, so
Okay,
from where that little sink is in that alcove.
right
I
in
think
here.
if you go back to the schematic, you can see it a little
Okay,
bit more clearly.
let's do that. Let's do that. Yep.
Yeah. So so we have these trifolds in the house. So, and this plan is in them, but there are these additional openings between rooms. There are two of them that are not there today. And one is this little sink that's tucked into that corner.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently there was an opening into oh gosh, 4, 5, 6, 10. So between 104 and 106.
There was an opening right in
Yes.
this wall.
And I was interested to read in the report that APS state that at one time there had been an opening, was now filled in with that little sink.
I think what has probably happened, and I see some dark lines on there.
Mm-hmm.
This is an unusual layout. This partition right here with this door in it is
Are you
probably
using,
not original to the house.
okay.
Even when room 104 was built, room 104 and room 105 would almost certainly have been built as one room. So
Oh, I
the
see.
door between 106 and combined 104, 105, it probably did get moved around a few times, depending on how the family was using the spaces. But yeah, that's something that probably should have been a little bit better documented.
Mm-hmm. I was just curious, how did they show up in those pamphlets that are in the house?
If they're showing the opening where that sink is.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that sink is I don't know, maybe from the 60s or the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when that would have been put there, but that's certainly
Mm-hmm.
not an original sink location.
Okay. And then the other opening that's in these pamphlets is from 105 into 107. It's in the northeast corner of 105.
So up in here somewhere.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
I was just curious, who drew those pictures? Where did they get that information?
Yeah. That would have been a useful opening between those two areas.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe if that's from the 60s, that's the DMC hopping era
It
of
could,
looking at the building.
yeah, it could be. It could.
Mm.
I don't have a copy of that pamphlet.
Yes. Okay. We can send you a couple so you can see them.
I have the plans from 1928 or 29 when the village took over the property. And I need to take a look at that and see if maybe they're in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? while we're here, let's see if I can pull that up. See, that's one of the things that's not on this computer.
Can I ask a quick question about what horizontal ledger board is
All right.
and what board and batten is?
All right. Board and batten is a vertical siding system where you have individual planks, and then where the planks join together, there's another small piece of wood that covers that. And they usually stand on top of a horizontal board that kind of holds everything up and holds it even. And that's the horizontal ledger board. They must be talking about an interior wall. It's certainly.
That's talking about room 113.
Oops.
Okay, so that's one of those lean-to structures behind chimney 2.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that was definitely added on way after everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can grab this while we're here. I'm looking for the plans.
I don't understand what is 110.
It's that vestibule next to the old back door,
Ah, okay.
between right out between the kitchen and the downstairs bathroom. That
Right,
little
got it.
vestibule.
Okay.
All right, so Helen, here's where those openings, here's where they got that information. So these plans were drawn up around 1929, 1930. By 1936. That was close. All right, so here's where that little sink was between the back room and the parlor, or whatever we want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's a little fuzzy. And there is definitely an opening between the kitchen and the next room there. And then that room also into the kitchen in the back. So those doors are not there anymore.
Are you showing the 1936 plans?
Yes. Let me.
I still see the schematic.
Okay, hang on. How come it only wants to? To show now? The blueprint?
Nope.
No.
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 New share. Oh, okay. I guess I moved too many things and it didn't like that. Sorry.
There we go.
Okay.
Oh, now I see it.
All right. Yeah, so I turned it sideways so at least it's oriented the same way. This is really intriguing. So, you know, here we're at the front door. The stairs are a little out of kilter here. There is a corridor. Where are we? All right,
Oh, fascinating.
let me flip that here. All right, here we go. All right, so when you walk into the house, you go to the room to the left. You walk into the back room, which everyone is calling Put's room. And then you move to the right into what was the add-on kitchen. There was a closet back in 1936. That's not there
Mm.
anymore.
No, right.
This is where they were showing the sink, and you can see there's actually a double door.
Yeah.
Um, for whatever reason, and another door. This door is still there. This door is gone as well, right? Because there's no way to walk between these two rooms. And this door is also gone. So there's
Oh, so there was a door there.
yeah, there definitely was a door there.
Huh. So if this was the 1936
This is
plans,
36, yes.
so was renovation done at that time?
No,
Or
what happened
openings
was,
original?
yeah, when Portchester ended up owning the building, they hired this company.
Mhm.
Flip this around. I know his name is on here somewhere. Maybe it's not anymore. Ah, okay, it's off in the corner. I have a large print of this in original print, so. But they hired an architectural firm to come and just document what was there, and
Mhm.
it's kind of telling. Unfortunately, they didn't do the outside buildings, but they at least did a pretty good job here. And there used to be a cellar door back here to get into the cellar. That's gone.
Mhm.
They
That's
moved it
gone.
to the front.
And that has the second floor as well?
Yeah, the second floor is over here. This is
So,
pretty accurate.
so I have a question about the second floor windows.
Mhm.
So in there, it says the south elevation of the salt box portion is asymmetrical as the porch is positioned off center, which makes sense to me. And the vertical window placement is non-linear. So I don't know what that means. And I also was looking at figure B30, which is an image from the 1900s that they provide in the appendix. And it shows the bay window, which has since been removed, but it says additionally, second floor windows are indicated to be in configurations that are different from what presently exist, but it doesn't say how they're different.
Yeah, they're probably going to have to generate a whole bunch of pages to explain what that means. And I also had noticed that they're not clear on where things are. For instance, here in 1936, I mean, we've got photographs of the bay window, but it's not here in 1936. So it was probably already gone by then.
Yeah, there's a postcard in the house that shows that.
The bay window.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't even know if that photograph has a date on it. I think I have that one as well.
I think, didn't they estimate that as much earlier, like 1905?
Probably.
There are two photographs here. One is a postcard from 1905, and that shows basically the house from the southwest. And then one shows predominantly just the southern face of it. Does nonlinear mean that the bottom of the windows don't line up?
You know, that phrase is not really useful, unfortunately, because yes, you're right. It could mean that the bottoms don't line up or the tops don't line up. Let's see if I've got
Something doesn't line up. Okay.
everything doesn't line up. But yeah, as a phrase, it's not.
Norm,
Yes.
Mike, sorry, can you go back a couple of photographs?
Sure. I have a few hundred.
No, you keep going. That's not the same house.
No, this is the
That's-
Thomas Lyon house at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, that's the one that used to be on the property where I am now.
Down across the Byram River in Greenwich.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was gonna say that's the wrong house.
Well, this is actually the Underhill Lion house. I'm sorry. Another lion.
Yeah, that shouldn't be in here.
No. Well, what happens is everything gets tagged together. I wanted to see if I had the This is the,
That's the same one.
no, this is the Thomas Lyon House now in Greenwich.
Oh, is it?
This
Okay,
one is
yeah,
at the bottom
we
row.
have, there are photos of that one in the house too.
There's
That,
the John Lyon House on the farm. That's not there anymore.
no.
All right. I'm getting off on a side thing here.
So do you think at some point we could sit down and look at the windows and just try and, I mean, I don't know why you would move windows other than when you put the porch in, except that, I don't know. But so it's,
Well, when they raised the roof in the front of the house to create, they put windows in. There were no windows in that second bedroom upstairs until that roof was raised.
well, this says that these are windows in a different configuration from what they are today.
Oh, yes. They also said there was another inaccuracy about those windows. They said they were all casement or all double hung. I forget which one they said, which is not true. There were 5 double hung and 1 casement.
That's
I think it's
currently.
currently.
Yeah. Yeah. The old windows were mostly casement, but down along on the King Street side here, this I'm pretty sure was a double hung, and this was probably a.
Oh, really?
No, doesn't say. Does not.
Okay, because it's a single now.
The one facing King Street.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's clearly a double window, and there's a single one further back. You know, we had people living in the house, and they probably did, you know, what they felt they needed to do to make it more tolerable for themselves. And
Yes.
nobody was watching what was going on.
So are the second floor windows modern windows?
I think they are, honestly. I mean, I looked at them. I would say they date to the late 1800s or early 1900s.
Today, the ones that are there today.
The ones that are there today. Yeah. The glass is not right. You know, and back then, glass was very dear. So there would have been extremely tiny panes with lots of framing in between. So they, you know, they don't match that at all.
Mhm.
Let's see if I
Could
can-
we look at the blueprint of the first floor again?
Sure. Let me flip it so we're.
So I was interested in the drawing of the chimney. So if we look at the chimney, on the east side of the chimney, you can see, it's the room with the paneling. So we can't see what's behind the paneling right now. So you can see a fireplace opening and a bake oven opening.
Yes. And they're gone, right? They're all covered up right now.
Right.
Yep.
So if we remove the paneling, would we see them?
Yes, I'm sure they're still there. They may
Excellent.
have, you know, if it was done by people who didn't know what they were doing, they might have filled in this little bake oven with rubble stone and plastered over the front, only because this thing would have been open to the flue. And if you're going to put wood paneling in front of it and not know what's going on in there, they probably would have wanted to seal this up. But I guarantee it's still in there.
Mm. That would be cool to see that again.
It would be nice. I just want to point out that normally this particular pattern, and that, again, this was drawn in 1936, but to see that cross hatching, that's
Yes.
brick. Right behind that is a very large hearth.
Yes.
So, you know.
Well, if there was one proposal in the report that speculated that the original house was 2 rooms, the 2 front rooms.
Probably.
With the front hall.
Yes.
And so I wondered if that meant on the left side, the King Street side, was the parlor, and on the right-hand side was the kitchen.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. There's no question. Yeah, this would have been the exterior wall at the back, right across
Mhm.
here. The house would have ended there, and it would have ended right here.
Mhm.
So then you would have had 1, 2 windows, a door, and 1, 2 windows. That was a very typical layout.
Right.
That's not what's there now, and no porch.
And no porch,
No
no.
porch, right, right. And then the upstairs would have been really bare bones, 1 room and 1 room.
Yes. One room and one attic room, really, without windows.
Pretty
Well,
much.
there may have been windows in the back, of course.
Well, there probably would have been windows along the ends here. Maybe 1 window here and 1 window
Yeah, okay.
upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Just look up there. Yeah, because this would have been the whole house from here,
Mm-hmm.
here, and right across here.
Mm-hmm.
This was the end of the original 2nd floor,
Right.
and then across here. Yeah, so all of this was added on later. That I think everyone seems to be in agreement with. You know, whether the house started out as 1 or 2 is almost kind of immaterial. A chimney that size, I would say it started out as 2/2, and that would have been very, very typical. I
Mhm.
wanted to get everybody down to the Thomas Lyon house down at the bottom of Putnam Avenue, because that started life as a 1/1 and then became a 2/2, and is almost identical to this layout. So, you know, it would have been maybe a good illustration of what the Bush-Lyon house probably looked like when it was first built.
Mm.
So I have a question about the northwest wall of attic O2. So if that's an addition attic, then, so they mentioned something about this, but I didn't quite understand it. So the shingles that are on the interior wall are the original exterior shingles?
They're not the original, but they certainly predate the extension on the northeast over here. Am I facing the right way? Yes. No. This extension on this side, that's now this is a 1936 plan, and they say they have it written right there, shingle.
Mm.
So do we know when that shingle would be from?
That would be a good thing for them to test, because that would tell them when the house went from being a 2/2 to a 2/2 with a salt box addition.
And I don't recall that information being in
No,
here.
it was not presented, and they didn't mention it. I don't
Okay.
even know if they mentioned the shingle. You know, no,
They did mention it, yes.
They did it, yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't offer an explanation as to why it's there.
No.
So,
Mm.
Yeah, if you go in that upstairs room, you can see the break in the ceiling between what used to be the end of the house, and you know they
Yes, it's clearly visible.
Oh yeah, it's there. Okay, I'm going to just go back to. Is this showing up now? The color plan?
The floor plan, yes.
Okay. So we kind of, I don't know if we finished with this. I think we did.
I just have a question about the chimney, the way it shows the chimney extending into room 104. And on the plan that you were showing before, the older one.
Let's see if it shows on this one. Extending into 104. This little portion right here.
Yeah, so if we're saying that those 2 front rooms are the original rooms, does that mean the original chimney was extending beyond the?
This is an additional chimney.
Oh, it was added.
Yeah, the chimney in 104 would definitely not have been original to the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I wondered if it was like an outdoor chimney, but no, that wouldn't have been.
I don't think so. You know, they typically didn't have outside chimneys. If they did have an outside a cooking facility or baking facility, it would have been very small. You know, really just like a little cook oven. I don't know.
Okay.
Nah. I was gonna say this would have been an opportunity over here for them to do it, but they didn't. But see, there's now I know that they have access and they were able to look at the 1936 drawings, but there's very little of the 1936 information on this plan. So I think they need to spend a little more time, you know, documenting the stages of this house. And that could be, you know, another 6 or 8 pages. But I really think they ought to um, try and give us a series of drawings of how the first house may have looked, and they can identify it in any way they want, as conjecture or typical or maybe or based on similar, however they want to say it. But I think it's pretty obvious that the house has gone through quite a series of changes, and drawings don't do it justice. You know, we need to have a series of drawings that show the stages that the house has gone through.
Yeah, I mean, given that this house is really a pastiche rather than, you know, one era, you know, I think what we would want to do is embrace the fact that it is a pastiche. It's like, it's telling a bunch of different stories. And I agree with you, these little teeny tiny diagrams, considering that's one of the things that we are, in fact, most interested in is
Yes.
Norm, can I ask about the diagram that's on page 25? Because it seems not to show a 2/2. It, like that back section it looks like 3 rooms. The original construction, 1750, 1770. It's the 2 left and right and the one behind it, including that third fireplace
Okay, you're saying page 25 of the report.
of the report.
All right, let me get it up on here.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Is that with the salt box extension?
Well, they seem to say that that was then they added the L and then the front of the L and then the cold storage in the back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or that's what they're proposing happened.
Mm-hmm.
25, you say, right?
25, right. It is section 3.5.1.
I went a little too far.
Yeah, it's before all the pictures.
Ooh, got quite a ways to go here.
Halfway there.
Scroll bar is missing. There we go. Oh, almost there.
Yeah, that's the
All
one.
right, so now we're getting into these goofy little
Yeah, that's
schematics.
Yes.
yeah, that's it.
So if you scroll up a little bit more, it says that they're claiming that that's the original house.
Yeah, they sort of make a blanket statement, I guess, that the subsequent additions is uncertain. I don't think they did any dendrochronology because some of the questions that we asked them and some of their responses seem to indicate that they've done all of the archaeological testing that they're going to do, and that, you know, some of these questions would require additional work on that part. And I disagree. I don't think they've done a complete archaeological or historical chronology of this thing. They
Yeah,
mentioned the 33 plans, but you're right. This is the first drawing that they're giving us. And they're showing already the salt box addition on the back. It's almost a physical impossibility because the ridge of the house is actually forward. The ridge of the house is here.
Right.
And
It doesn't match up.
right, even if the house was built, in that configuration originally, they would not have raised the second floor only in this area. They would have raised the entire thing to a second floor.
Mm,
It doesn't make any sense.
okay.
So I agree. These are
So,
the original rooms.
so is that something we want to make a very specific question?
I would, yes.
Okay, why are you saying it's rooms 104, sorry, excuse me, rooms 101 through 106, 201, a portion of 202, chimney 1, and attic 01, when that doesn't make any sense?
Right.
Okay, gonna mark that.
Someone mentioned the bay windows before, and they do talk about that, but it would be useful if they showed on one of the drawings where those were. I think they tried to show it in the postcard.
Yeah, well, I guess it would have shown up over here.
Do you mean, Miriam, as like part of the story of, like if we're telling the story of the house, it would be nice to have.
I was thinking about it because you, Kiki, were saying we want to show how the house changed over time. And they do say that there were these 2 bay windows and they were taken out. And they also mention a skylight.
Yeah, there's a skylight they took out.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that would be useful to know where those things were and approximately when they were added, when they were removed.
Yeah, it probably does deserve a mention. If it were me doing the report, I would probably not show that on any of the plans, only because the bay window and the skylight were, I hate to use the word modern conveniences, but they were added by people who were living in the house after all the history had already happened.
Right, but at some point, someone in the future is going to be like, what the heck is this here? If there's something that clearly shows that there was a hole someplace that was then filled in.
Yeah, you're right. That's what's going to happen. So I think it does need a mention, and whether or not it deserves to be shown actually on the plans is, I guess you could make an argument either way. But they've made some decisions here about what to include and what not to include. That
Well, for non-architectural people who who are interested in why you would put in a skylight and then why you would take it out, I mean, I would like to see that.
And I just think for documentation purposes, it would be useful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, then what? Hey, let's get
So
them.
Norm, just before you move that page, so you're saying with those diagrams, the pitch of the roof is in the wrong spot because
Right.
the roof does not have a salt box appearance
Right.
in these diagrams.
Right.
So these are also incorrect?
These are incorrect.
Okay, big star there.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes.
But you're saying you're saying the roof ridge is in the wrong spot.
Roof ridge is in the wrong spot, and when you start out assuming that the house was full size, then of course these diagrams just reinforce that. But they actually, I think, let me see if I can get back to. There were some little elevations, and I can't find them now.
So is the whole idea of a salt box is that you build I think you said 2/2, and then when you can make your house bigger at some point,
Right.
you make it bigger by putting on a salt box addition.
Yes, that's exactly it. Let me see if I've got a decent end picture of the house here.
Yeah, so you can add 2 rooms downstairs and attic space upstairs.
Exactly.
Right, without having to change that much. So it makes it's an easy addition, easier than raising the whole roof line
There we
to
go.
be equal.
All right. Let me share this. All right, so what's happened is that, and the reason that the ridge is here is because the original house ended at this point,
Mhm.
right? From here back is a one-story salt box. So, and obviously this whole wing of the house has been added on, but this is the only one I've got, unfortunately, that shows the salt. And this is great. Here's where the old framing ended, and they had to jack up and put in a new frame where the salt box addition joins up with the main roof. So, you know, it's not rocket science, but I think they missed the boat. I'm looking to see. I thought I had the opposite end of the house here, but I don't. I took a lot of pictures.
So are you saying the salt box addition would be those 3 rooms on the back?
I wish I had the back of the house here. Sorry, we're seeing all the same ones over and over again.
So that was the back right there.
Yeah, that's about as close as I can get to the back.
Yes, 3 rooms on the back.
Right.
103, 104, and 105.
All right, let's go back to. This. Oh, that's going away. All right, so we'll do it this way. This is the one we want to look at. Is this showing?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So what happens is the original house, this gutter would have been down here somewhere.
Hmm.
It would have gone up in a ridge to the middle, back down, and this is the back of the house.
Hmm.
Right. When they raised the roof, they put, I don't know if you recall, I showed that little picture of the short framing and the studs going up. That's
Mhm.
where they raised this beam, added this, and added the second floor. And that's why the ridge ends up way the heck over here. What they're showing is that the whole house went this depth, and they're showing it almost as a full second floor in the drawings, and that's clearly not what's going on.
Mhm.
So they need to change the schematics.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's yeah. So these 4 windows on the front are probably pretty close to where the originals were, but they would never have been this big.
Okay. So the 2 here in the parlor, room 102,
These 2.
yeah, the one closest to the door does have some original lights.
The only problem is that
Mhm.
a building from the late 1700s would never have had a 12 over 12,
Mm.
even if they were fabulously wealthy people.
Okay.
They would have been 6 over 6 or something like that. They may not even have been operable windows. It's kind of hard to say, but
Mhm.
these windows are most definitely not original. Although they may be close to the original location.
Mhm.
So would it be possible to look at this diagram? This diagram is to scale, I assume?
I'm assuming you're right, yep.
Okay. To compare this diagram with the photograph from the 1900s to try and figure out what's happened to the second floor windows? Because these are the ones that say that this configuration from the early 1900s is different from today.
Let me see, I know I've got that photograph. I'm gonna see if I can get them both on the screen here.
It is in the report. It's on page 315.
Okay. Oh, all right. If I can't find it here, I'm gonna go there.
So dark though in the photo.
Yeah, I wish that they had just numbered them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and said, this one was moved to the right, this one, like,
Yeah.
or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
You know what? In the 1910 photo, you almost can't. There's so much brush and trees in front of the house.
Wow.
Yes.
The next one, if you look at the next one. The 1905 photo, that's the one that shows the bay window.
Yeah, I think that I unfortunately I cropped this one. It's right over here.
Yeah, it's over there.
Yeah, it would have definitely showed. Those are the two windows, and they're not. I can't tell what they are. There's a tree right in front.
Well,
But if you look at
so
the next photo, which is the 1900s photo on page 315, that one shows the front windows.
and it shows a bay window on the front as well.
Yes, the bay window.
Oh, yeah, yes.
315.
315, okay.
I think I'm in the wrong document. Getting close.
Oh, yes, okay. Yeah, so there are only 1, 2, 3, oh no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
12, isn't it?
7 windows. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There appear to be 7 windows. Except I don't know about that middle one. Is that all one?
You're talking about on the first floor here?
And the next picture, I think she's looking at.
Page 315, Miriam?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at.
Mhm. Yeah, this is that other odd bay window.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the bay window on King Street side is actually here anymore. It's hard to tell. It may be hiding around the corner because the bay window on the King Street side is very much toward the back of the house.
If you look at page 314, you can see it. The bay window on the King Street side.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's very much toward the back of the house.
Yeah, I kind of think it's on the wall in General Putnam's office.
Yes, I agree. I think this is what they were saying when the windows on the second floor are non-linear. That they go up and down.
Right.
Yes.
But I just don't understand how they're different from where they presently are.
Well, this porch is probably a mid-1800s edition. And what they probably did was they took the windows that were there and they shoved them up under the gutter so that they could get enough pitch on this roof to actually drain the water.
Oh, I'm sorry. It says that they're different from how they are now. So
Oh.
I don't know how, in what manner they are different.
Oh, yeah, they should have.
They
Yeah,
kind
I'm not
of look the
sure.
same.
Are they different now from this drawing?
It says the
Yes.
second floor windows are indicated to be in configurations that are different from what presently exist. I don't know what they mean by configurations.
Yeah, because the one in the middle is the casement. And then the 2 on the left and the 3 on the right are the double hungs. But it's hard to tell from the picture photograph on page 315 what they looked like.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at their own document, and they're saying that this was a double hung, and the 2 over the porch are casements. I'm just looking at the porch windows right now,
Mm-hmm.
and there they are, 2 casements
Mm-hmm.
and a double hung. I'm guessing, kind of hard to tell. But this window,
Yeah, that's in the hallway.
yeah, the window at the far left is definitely there centered between the 2 first floor windows.
Mm-hmm.
That looks right.
Mm-hmm.
We've got one just at the edge of the porch roof, one close by, and then one down at the corner.
Yes.
They're in
So
the same spot.
Looks the same.
this is about where the room would have the original construction of the house would have ended.
Right here, right through the middle of
Because
the window.
when you're upstairs in this bedroom number 2, they are awkwardly placed in the room. All
Yeah.
those windows. Yeah.
Yes, they are. Yeah, the house definitely ended right in this area,
Mm-hmm.
and probably right through the middle of that window. They moved these 2 windows either next to each other or closer together, but
Mm-hmm.
when that happened, I couldn't say.
Okay.
I'm the only other than the bay window over here, I think they've got the window locations the way they are now is exactly the way they were in 1900. Other than the bay window,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
you know, the caretakers may have taken out a double hung and put in casements, but I'm sure it's in exactly the same opening because they really do. They look like they line right up to me.
Mm-hmm.
So then the question is, you know, all of this is really going to come back to when the time comes to start restoring this house. We need to pick a date. You know, I guess we could use every room and say, well, this is a room from the 1900s. This is a room from the 1800s. This is a room that we think, you know, from the original. But you know, this report is not going to give us enough to even do that.
No, it's not. I was hoping for some guidance on planning.
Yeah, there's not much there.
Yeah, planning.
Again, some of them do, yeah. And that again is the nature of the companies that do this. Some of them are very heavy on recommendations for future use. There's very little of that in this particular report, but I know from having done these before that they're very hesitant to suggest what to do with the building in the future. You know, they don't want to take that responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Or I had a question on page 274. There's a bunch of like estimates on like they don't give a lot of recommendations, but they do give estimates on what repairs would cost. How accurate are they generally? In your experience, are those estimates really accurate, or they're just like made up?
Yeah, I kind of skipped over that because I started reading and I'm like, it doesn't, it's almost not useful information because by the time this report is picked up again by somebody who's going to be doing work, none of this stuff is going to mean anything.
Yeah, and it doesn't really. Oh, costs have been prioritized as follows. But also, like, we don't have like $100,000 just sitting somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Total main building exterior repairs 494,000. I did not get into the nuts and bolts of how they arrived at the numbers, but I can tell you that from a report standpoint, you want that number to be as big as it could possibly be, because at some point when the building needs to be restored and you're looking to outside agencies to provide funding,
Yeah.
you want to have a little bit of negotiating room. So this is fine, but I would say they're probably terribly inaccurate. I mean, just,
I had a question. I don't know if you can speak to this about the outbuilding number 2.
oh yeah, let's get to the outbuildings.
So one of the things that I had requested was that if they could be more decisive, even if what they were saying was exclusionary, I thought that would be helpful.
Yeah, there's not a heck of a lot going on with the outbuildings. I think that was up in here somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, their description of it is on page 129.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if that's helpful.
129, did you say?
Yes, page 129. So, and it says, it is important to note that the majority of extant examples of detached slave quarters observed by the date of this report employ a fireplace and chimney, even those located in warmer southern regions. Outbuilding 02 does not appear to have any remnants of a fireplace or chimney, but is rendered with plaster on the interior. I don't know the significance of that.
Yeah.
Well, does it?
Yeah, the only reason that you would have plastered in the interior of your building is to keep the wind from blowing through. But again, the plaster is probably not original to that building either. There's all kinds of problems with the outbuildings here. If you look at the early maps of the land, is everyone seeing these?
Yes.
Okay.
What are we looking at? Oh, these.
The outbuildings.
Mm-hmm. But we're looking at a map of the outbuildings.
Make sure that it's showing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you look at the early maps from 1860s, 1880s, this building seems to be in its original location, but this building is not here. It's either over here, and this building seems to be over here.
You pointing to something?
Yeah, is it showing on the plan?
I'm not seeing it. What are you pointing at?
All right, we're looking at these 3 outbuildings right now.
Yes. Uh-huh. Okay, now I see it. Okay.
Outbuilding number 2,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, looking at the early photographs and some drawings and the maps, that outbuilding number 2 was originally over here, behind the house.
Yes, and that shows on Andrew Bush. Andrew Bush is.
Yes. Now,
site plan also.
if you look at Andrew Bush's plan, there's another big building up here, which is
Mhm.
gone. And this building is not there, of course, but
Right.
there are two similar sized barns, probably this one and another one over here. Now, whether that's those two buildings and this has been added on, we're not getting anything in the report. But the early maps only show 3 buildings total. This one,
Right.
or this one and this one in a different location.
Yeah, there was no description of the one that the Portchester DPW has added on to.
No,
Was nothing about that one at all in the report.
let me pull this up because this is kind of useful. We share, or they make me do this every time. This is from 1930.
Okay.
Main house
Yeah.
with a little stone addition on the back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a barn,
Yeah.
and there's the other 2 barns. The
Mm-hmm.
driveway that's there now goes right through here.
Mm-hmm.
So what would that little outbuilding have been that was near the house?
This one?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a corn crib or maybe fruit storage. The fact that it was plastered on the inside was probably meant to keep the weather out more than anything else. It's not large enough to be anything, for human occupancy. Although it may have started life as an outhouse. It's very hard to say because it's not in its original location. But I believe that building has been moved over here. And I've looked at this drawing a lot, and I don't want to beat up on the guy who made this map in 1930 because, again, they weren't looking for dead-on accuracy. They just want to give you an idea what's going on. But the fact that thing is drawn over there, and there's only 2 barns here, it makes me a little nervous that they haven't documented what the heck is going on here.
Mm-hmm.
So so that earlier map, the one you have from 1936, I assume the purpose of that map would be the same as today, which is that it's for the purposes of taxation.
Probably, yeah.
So I imagine if something on it was wrong, that people would grieve their taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I happen to find this is actually a 1940 aerial, and there's the house, and there's some little cluster here and some little cluster here. It's just not clear enough to tell what's going on, but that's the same area and just 10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking for when that house got relocated, but the maps don't they don't give me that. I want to see if we've got. This is 1914. Again, there's the main house, some little barn, 2 barns, and then I'm assuming that this is the large barn that was added.
Mm-hmm.
But even in 1914, there's still something over there.
Right. Mm.
This is just kind of neat because there's Putnam Avenue.
Yes.
Area in 1914. So I think they need to spend a little more time documenting the outbuildings. Even if it's just, we're not sure or we don't know, but to me, there's not enough information there for somebody, 5 or 10 years from now when it comes time to, they say, well, let's try and restore this back to how it really was during the Bush era. There's not enough information, and I think they could add a little bit more.
So Norm, do you want to write up specifically how you want to word that so that then I can, give that exactly to Eric Sampt.
Do that. Obviously, they need to document this end of the house a little bit better, And, you know, the grounds, there's not a lot of information about the grounds in the report either, but again, I sympathize in that the official records at Portchester are just awful. These again are just existing conditions. I would like to see some dimensions on this. You know, I don't need to have every stinking little detail dimension, but it'd be nice to know how tall that is, you know, how wide it is. That information is useful.
Do you think you could make a just a series of you know, requests that specify, you know, like if we want to have one that has highly detailed measurements of like window aperture sizes and stuff like that, and then like what kind of reference points you want on that, like I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, and maybe I would even preface that with just a general question that are we going to be getting a fully detailed set of dimensioned documents on this house? Because, you know, right now we don't have it. And that's kind of critical to future work.
Where would those documents be kept? Because
Uh,
I'm a little hesitant to have them go to the village because they seem to lose things.
They lose things. Well, what's going to happen now in this day and age, of course, is that they're going to be all digital, right? So, you know, they will have a full set of drawings using some CAD program of some kind, and they're going to keep them digitally. And, you know, if they make us a lot of copies, that would be nice to have. But, you know, paper can be replaced, and, you know, we can always send them out and get them reprinted if they get beat up. So it's not as bad as it used to be. But I don't see anywhere in this report that they're even providing that.
No, I didn't read that. No.
So, if they think that, you know, drawings of this detail are going to suffice, they're mistaken.
I have to drop off. Bye.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
I also have to go, but I'm going to leave the meeting running. So I'm just going to mute myself and then I'll be back later.
I see if we have any questions. I was just checking the email to see if anybody shot me any questions while we're here, but I don't see that. So.
Norm, do you know when the meeting with the town board is? When is APS going to do their presentation to the board? Do you have
I don't know, and I didn't see anything in there on the schedule. They may be waiting for us. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So we probably need to get this to them.
Yeah,
Yes.
hopefully they are waiting for us so we can get
Yeah, because there were, you know, some of the questions that we had before, they kind of put them off until the next go round. Let me see if I can just pull that up. Gosh, I can't remember which one it is here.
Yeah, does the village planning department have a list of questions?
That's a good question. I don't think so, unless they've been communicating separately. But they're not included in the draft report from HSR. I don't see any questions coming from the village. But some of their answers just seem to be, you know, like this one. There are various places throughout the report where APS refers to insertions that are needed. They just say noted to be included in the final report. So there's still something coming. Whether they're working on that or when that's happening, it's not clear.
Okay.
Let's see if there's any.
Oh, this is the chart Kiki made, right?
No, this was. Did Kiki make this, or this came from? This came
Oh,
from,
I just assumed she had.
I think
'cause
this came from HSR.
She collected questions from us and kind of put them together in some kind of format.
Okay, maybe this is what she did. I had assumed this came from HSR.
Oh, well. Because she's got, in that central column, does she have, yeah, there's Feynman, that's Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Peter's question, TS.
Yeah, the initials, I don't know who they are.
Yeah, FC.
I know there were some of mine in there too. I thought that she had, and there's Kiki, so I thought that she had just submitted the questions to them and they produced this report.
Right, they provided some answers.
Yeah,
I have to look at that again.
yeah, I looked through it. A lot of them, they're just pushing things off until, you know, they say here, you know, to be included in supplemental archival files. I don't know when that's going to happen. To be
Yes,
included in the
where are
final
they?
report.
Where are the archival files?
Yeah. They talk about historic maps of the Native American territories throughout the Northeast were found, will be included in the supplemental archival files. So, you know, I think they're pushing a lot off onto whatever they're planning to do here. So I think we probably need to get our questions to them quickly.
Okay.
Oh, this was a funny one. I got to tell Kiki too. The BARD quotation, please put Mr. Irving in context. They're assuming it's Washington Irving. Mr. Irving was actually a developer in Portchester. And I think that's what Mr. Baird was referring to, not Washington Irving. But anyway. and they say
It
Washington
is funny.
was likely a local resident at the time. I don't think so. He was over in Sleepy Hollow. But anyway, that's
And out, folks. Okay, this has been absolutely fascinating and enjoyable to learn.
Yes,
Education, what I'm
no,
gonna
really.
start now.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you.
a lot to digest, I know. Yeah. For me, it's just kind of second nature. But you know, when I saw some of the questions coming, I'm like, oh gosh, you know, we can do better. And I do want to send them some comments on the family lineage, which is not quite correct. And again, I sympathize with their confusion because the Lyons and the Bush families were both living in Portchester and doing business with each other before the marriage between the two families. And I thought that would have been nice to detail a little bit the fact that they all had houses down in the square. You know, they were kind of neighbors at the time, along with the Buckleys. But it's not clear. And again, the confusion is that we've got the Bush-Lyon house. Right down the street, we've got the John Lyon farm. And then downtown, we've got John Lyon Point and the two Bush houses down in the village. And when you look at some of the documents,
A map or a plan or something would be helpful.
it really would.
Yes.
Really would.
So are the Bush houses in the village still there?
No,
No.
no, that's gone. I can show you. Let's see if I can pull up that map of the downtown area.
Norm, was that one of the houses that was torn down when they blew in Costco?
No,
I know there were
no.
3 or 4 very, very. I know there was a Bush house down there. I don't know about, or a Bush or a Lyon house. I'm not sure which.
We can share this. This might clarify things. Oh gosh, just a little bit. All right, so here, this is 1868.
Mhm.
These right here are bush houses. This is along King Street, just before you come to AD. These are all, everything's gone here. Captain Buckley's house is here. This is all gone. And it was gone even before the turn of the century, 1900. It was all gone.
What's the date of this map?
This is 1868.
1868.
These old maps are great. Come into the marina here and go under Westchester Avenue, and there was a whole nother stream down here. All gone, all filled in. So when you look at the old documents, and they're talking about Lyon Point and the Lyon Dock and the stone
Yeah.
house, and there's W.L. Bush. Right? So they were doing business together. There's all the Lyon family all lined up over here. So I think they need to do a little bit better job on the lineage leading up to the marriage, and then what happened afterwards with the Davenport family, and there were interactions with the Merritts and the Purdy's. All of that stuff is maybe not exactly germane to restoring the house, but I'm just worried that in the future people will say, well, this isn't important or that's not important, without understanding the connections to the other families in Portchester.
Yeah, and there was mention of the Bush who bought the property that became the Bush Holly House in Coscob.
Yes.
But we had understood that at one time there were brothers, one living in Bush Holly and one living in Bush-Lyon.
I think that's correct, or it was a uncle and a nephew. I think they were one generation.
Ah, okay.
I'm not sure if I can pull up. I'm going to try without losing everything that's on the screen already.
That have been Justus and Abraham?
Yes. Where is my... Try. Make me keep sharing things. All right. This is a little messy, but oops. Nope, this isn't the one I wanted.
Okay. It's all right.
Oh gosh.
No, it would have been nice to have had a little story about that connection.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but it's
Yeah.
one of those typical business deals. I say, hey, can my son marry your daughter?
Yeah.
I wonder how much they had really to say about it. I am looking.
The ladies didn't have too much to say.
No, exactly. They did what Dad said.
That we know.
Gosh.
It's okay if you can't find it.
Yeah, I don't think I have it on this. I had to move everything over to the to my laptop, and I don't think I have. This was a story about the Bush and Buckley
Mhm.
when the property was about to be seized by Portchester. It was a missing son. All right, I should probably just write all of this up and just distribute it because it's kind of fun. But I think it ought to
Yes.
be in the report. So maybe I'll provide that to them. There is.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would very much like to have, appendices that we're adding. So anything you got, like, please, yes,
All
let's
right, so
keep
what-
it and put it in there.
Yes, because you want to put some human faces on this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I have a lot on them. All right, so I'll pull that together. I actually have the family tree all worked out on WikiTree. So I think there's a way to print that up and make that available as well. It is a kind of an interesting story, and they talk about when Bush first came to Portchester and was building a stone house down in the village, and never got around to finishing it. And he actually died before it got finished. And then his wife tried to finish it. His son tried to finish it. I'm not sure it ever got finished. But there's some great stories about the family that are not necessarily need to be included in this, but I think they're interesting for us.
Mhm.
I'll pull all of that together.
Mhm. Well, thank you. That would be wonderful.
You bet. Let's see if this is.
Actually, while you're looking for that, Norm, if you guys have a second for a very interesting Portchester story
Absolutely.
concerning the Lyon family.
Mm.
The connection, you all obviously heard of Harry Howard Hook and Ladder Company, which is our ladder company here in the fire department in Portchester. Harry Howard was an extremely famous fireman at the time, he was the chief of the New York City Fire Department. Second to last volunteer chief the city had. Anyway, he was chasing or courting a daughter of one of the Lyons family, and basically they wanted to get married. And her father said because Harry Howard was a foundling, he had been left on someone's doorstep as an infant, and he had no, by his parents, so he was adopted by his mother, Mrs. Howard. But Mr. Lyon said he would not have his daughter marry a man of no family, a foundling. And he died, never having married again, never seeing another girl.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how he came to have the connection with Portchester, became very friendly with the girl's brother, who was one of the founders of the Hook and Ladder Company here in Portchester.
Oh yeah, and I know a lot of the Lyon family members were also volunteer firemen.
Yeah, but the father said he would not allow his daughter to marry a foundling.
Wow. And we're not dealing with royalty here. These are working class people.
Yeah, yeah, and he was the chief of the New York City Fire Department. He was an alderman. He was a street commissioner. Very nationally famous because he was the chief of the New York City Fire Department. But
Not good enough.
not good enough.
Lineage over achievement.
Exactly.
All right.
Huh.
So I think we're probably good. Does anyone have any other thoughts or anything that we should try and get into this report, or you feel a little more comfortable looking at the documents and the drawings?
Yes, I do.
This was really helpful.
You're
Thank
really
you so
It
much.
was very helpful. Yes.
Yeah, I think we want to say a big thank you to Norm.
Yes.
Yay, Norm.
Huge thank you. Yay.
I enjoy talking.
It will definitely help our understanding of this and help us to shape it to make it the best it can possibly be, because I can't imagine that Portchester is going to spring for another one of these for quite some time.
No,
So I
this
think
is
it's
usually it. Yep.
right. So it's really important we get as much out of this as we possibly can.
Yes, agree.
So Kiki, I guess you and I will sort of condense this down into one document with a series of questions and get that over to them. And hope.
Yeah, and I think we could also prioritize them as well. I mean, there are some little niggly things that I think we could ask for, and then there's some really big ones on
Yes.
there too. Yeah.
All right.
So,
All right, so we'll
yeah.
get that all down. And you said this is recorded, so we can always go back and see who said what. And that was a terrific idea.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks so much to everybody. Does anybody have anything else or?
No, thank you for hosting. Thank you for taking notes.
Yes, thank you, Keith.
So thank you, Norm, and thank everybody for participating and in bringing your questions. That's what's going to make the Portchester Historical Society great.
It's already great. What do you say? All right, terrific. All right, have a wonderful night, everyone.
Have a wonderful night,
Okay,
everybody.
good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.